As night fell, an ominous darkness descended upon the ancient ruins, a darkness that was as tangible as it was terrifying. Somewhere in the heart of this darkness, a group of friends had embarked on an adventure, their curiosity piquing despite the stern warnings from Kavitha, a local expert in the occult. Their laughter echoed through the ruins, a stark contrast to the eerie silence that hung heavily in the air. They were a motley crew, each one as different from the other as chalk and cheese. There was Rohan, the self-appointed leader, his bravado often bordering on arrogance. Neha, the scholar, who sought answers in dusty old books and ancient lore. Ajay, the thrill-seeker, always on the lookout for his next adrenaline rush. And then there was Leela, the innocent one, her wide-eyed wonder making her the most vulnerable of them all. Despite Kavitha's stern warnings, they had ventured into the ruins, their curiosity fueling their determination. They had performed a ritual, their voices chanting in unison, the symbols they drew glowing ominously in the flickering light of their flashlights. But what they had assumed to be just a harmless adventure soon turned into a nightmare. As they stumbled through the ruins, the gravity of their mistake began to dawn on them. The ritual they had performed had not just awakened their fears, but something far more sinister, a malevolent force that lurked in the shadows, feeding off their fear, growing stronger with every passing minute. And then Rohan, the leader, the bravest of them all, vanished. His screams tore through the silence of the night, echoing through the ruins, a chilling testament to the danger they had unwittingly unleashed. The darkness was alive, it was real, and it was closing in fast, its cold, icy fingers reaching out for them, ready to pull them into its depths. His screams echoed through the ruins, a chilling testament to the danger they had unwittingly unleashed. Kavitha found Leela, the innocent girl, cowering in a corner, her eyes wide with terror. With a heavy heart, Kavitha led Leela through the labyrinth of the ancient ruins, their path lit only by the faint glimmer of their flashlights. The darkness seemed to dance around them, a chilling reminder of the power they had unwittingly unleashed. They found themselves at Kavitha's humble abode, a small cottage filled to the brim with ancient tomes and relics. Their task was clear. They needed to reverse the ritual. As they delved into the dusty books, their hearts pounded with a mix of fear and hope. In the midst of their frantic research, they heard a knock. Neha and Ajay had escaped the ruins, their faces ghostly pale, and their eyes filled with a fear that words could not convey. As they stepped into the warm glow of the cottage, it was clear. The darkness had left its mark on them. Their faces were ashen, and their eyes haunted. Together, the four of them pored over the ancient texts, searching for a solution. Over time, the words began to reveal their secrets, painting a chilling picture of an ancient entity, a being of immeasurable darkness that had been roused from its centuries-long slumber, a being that now had its sights set on them. Kavitha led the charge, her fingers dancing over the worn pages as she pieced together the fragments of the counter-curse. "We need to perform a counter-curse," she declared, her voice steady despite the gravity of their situation. "It won't be easy. We'll need to gather rare herbs and spices and perform the ritual under the light of the full moon." Neha, Ajay, and Leela nodded, their faces etched with newfound resolve. They had unleashed this darkness, and they would be the ones to banish it back to its depths. So they set out, each tasked with gathering a piece of the puzzle. As they moved through the village, an eerie silence hung in the air. They couldn't escape the feeling that they were being watched, that the darkness was trailing their every move, biding its time. Meanwhile, Kavitha was preparing the space for the ritual, drawing symbols of protection and lighting candles to ward off the creeping shadows. Neha, Ajay, and Leela returned one by one, their arms laden with the necessary ingredients. As they began to arrange the items in the ritual circle, a sudden chill swept through the room. The candles flickered ominously, casting dancing shadows on the walls. And then, just as they were about to begin the counter-curse, Leela was gone. "Leela!" Kavitha's cry echoed through the silence, a desperate plea that went unanswered. They looked at each other, their hearts pounding with fear. Leela had been taken by the darkness, and they knew that their time was running out. The darkness was still out there, waiting for its chance to strike. The chilling fact hung in the air, a stark reminder of the grave task that lay ahead. They had to perform the counter-curse, not just for themselves, but for Leela, and for everyone else who might fall prey to the awakened darkness. And then, just as they were about to begin the counter-curse, Leela vanished. The chilling emptiness of her sudden absence echoed louder than any scream. The silence was a cold, sharp blade, slicing through the tension-filled air. Kavitha's cry of Leela's name was a futile attempt to bring her back, a desperate plea swallowed by the encroaching darkness. The urgency of their situation escalated. The darkness had made its move, a terrifying chess game where the stakes were their very lives. It was a stark reminder that they were not just battling an ancient entity, but also racing against time. Leela's disappearance was a catalyst, igniting a flame of determination within them. It was a cruel twist of fate that they had to perform the counter curse without her, yet it was the only option they had. Their survival hinged on the successful execution of the counter curse, and they were painfully aware of it. With renewed resolve, they set about their task. The counter curse was a complex weave of ancient incantations and precise movements, a delicate dance performed under the watchful eyes of the full moon. Each word they uttered, each gesture they made, was a direct challenge to the entity, a battle cry in the silent war they were waging. The shadows around them seemed to recoil, to shrink back from the power of the counter curse. Yet they could feel the darkness watching, waiting, its cold tendrils snaking around the edges of their courage. As they neared the end of the counter curse, their hearts pounded in their chests, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. It was a moment suspended in time, the calm before the storm that was sure to follow. Then, with a final resonant incantation, they completed the counter curse. The night held its breath, the silence so profound it was almost deafening. They waited, the taste of hope and fear mingling on their tongues. The darkness had taken her, and the group knew that they were running out of time. They had thrown their challenge into the abyss. Now it was a waiting game. Would the darkness retreat, or would it fight back, more ferocious than before? Only time would tell.
What would you do if your friend was taken by a dark force? This is the eerie reality Neha, Ajay, and Kavitha found themselves grappling with. Their friend Leela had vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but an ominous chill in the air. The trio, driven by desperation and fear, hit the ground running. Every second that ticked by was a second lost, a second that Leela was in the clutches of an unseen, malevolent entity. They knew they had to act swiftly, or risk losing Leela to the shadows forever. Kavitha, a firm believer in the arcane, suggested a drastic course of action, a counter curse. It was a risky move. The counter curse was an ancient ritual, its origins lost to the sands of time. It was said to have the power to banish darkness and bring back those lost to it. But the ritual was shrouded in mystery and fraught with danger. The slightest misstep could spell disaster. Nevertheless, the three friends had no other option. They gathered around a makeshift altar, their hands trembling as they held the rare herbs and spices required for the ritual. Their hearts pounded in their chests like war drums, echoing the gravity of what they were about to undertake. As they began to chant the ancient words, the air around them shifted, tangible and heavy. The darkness seemed to coalesce into a presence, a being of shadow and malevolence that loomed over them. It was as if they had stirred a slumbering beast, its eyes gleaming in the darkness. But Neha, Ajay, and Kavitha didn't waver. They continued to chant, their voices rising and falling in a hypnotic rhythm. They poured every ounce of their courage and desperation into the ritual, their voices growing louder and more confident. Slowly but surely, the darkness began to recede, banished by the power of the counter curse. Their perseverance was beginning to pay off, but would it be enough to bring Leela back from the grasp of the unknown? And then, in a burst of light, Leela reappeared. She was a silhouette against the blinding brightness, stumbling forward as if emerging from a dream. Her eyes were wide, filled with confusion and the faintest flicker of fear, but she was unharmed. The relief was palpable. It surged through the room like a living thing, washing over Neha, Ajay, and Kavitha. They rushed toward her, their arms thrown around her in a tight, protective embrace. Their hearts pounded in unison, a symphony of relief and triumph, punctuated by the salty sting of their tears. But even in their joy, they were acutely aware of the lingering darkness. It was still out there, a malevolent shadow waiting for its next opportunity to strike. The threat was far from over, and they knew their fight was only just beginning. They would have to remain vigilant, ready to face whatever horrors lurked in the shadows. And they would be ready. From that day on, the group dedicated themselves to studying the ancient arts. Their curiosity sparked a relentless quest to uncover the secrets of the universe. Their names echoed through the halls of the occult, their expertise recognized and revered. They delved into the depths of ancient texts, sought forbidden knowledge and traveled the world, guided by the flickering candle of curiosity. But with each turn of the page, every unearthing of a hidden truth, a shadow grew, an ominous darkness seeping into their lives, growing stronger and more potent with each revelation. It was as if the pursuit of knowledge itself was feeding this malevolent entity, fueling its power. One chilling evening within the stone walls of an ancient temple, Kavitha broke the silence. Her voice, usually firm and confident, trembled with a hint of fear. "We have to be careful," she warned, her eyes reflecting the dancing flames of the roaring fire. "We're playing with forces beyond our control." Neha, her face illuminated by the firelight, nodded gravely. "We've unleashed a power that we can't contain," she agreed, her voice barely a whisper against the crackling of the fire. "We need to find a way to stop it before it's too late." But Rohan, always the thrill-seeker, was undeterred. His eyes, ablaze with the thrill of discovery, shone in the firelight. "We're on the brink of a major discovery," he declared, a note of defiance in his voice. "We can't turn back now." And so they continued their quest, their pursuit of knowledge a beacon in the face of the encroaching darkness. They uncovered secrets that had been hidden for centuries, their discoveries illuminating the world. Yet with each revelation, the shadows grew darker, the darkness stronger. They stood on the precipice of understanding, of power, of danger. The echoes of Kavitha's warning reverberated in their minds. "We need to find a way to stop it before it's too late." But the allure of knowledge, the thrill of discovery was too strong. The ancient texts, the hidden truths, the power they promised all beckoned them forward towards the darkness, towards the unknown. Until finally they stumbled upon an ancient ritual that would grant them ultimate power. The group, driven by a combination of curiosity and arrogance, dared to perform the ritual. The air crackled with an energy that was both terrifying and exhilarating. It was a power that promised knowledge and control, a power that was as intoxicating as it was dangerous. But as they chanted the ancient incantations, a sense of dread filled the room. The shadows seemed to grow darker, the air colder. They had expected power, but not like this. Not a power that was raw, wild, and uncontrollable. A power that felt alive. Too late, they realized their mistake. The darkness they had been fighting against was not an external force to be banished, but a part of the very universe itself. And now, they had invited it in. One by one, the group fell victim to the darkness they had unleashed. Neha, always the optimist, was the first to go. Her screams echoed through the temple, a chilling reminder of the price they had paid for their hubris. Next was Ajay, the skeptic, his body writhing in a dance of agony and terror. His final moments were a grotesque spectacle of the power they had sought to tame. Rohan, the thrill-seeker, met his end with a stare of paralyzing fear. His eyes, once filled with excitement and wonder, were now frozen in a mask of horror. Finally, Kavitha, the voice of reason, fell. Her eyes, filled with a mix of resignation and defiance, locked onto Leela. With her last breath, she whispered a final warning, her voice barely audible over the deafening roar of the darkness. "Run, Leela. Run, and never look back." And so, the ultimate power they had sought became their ultimate downfall. The darkness they had hoped to control had consumed them, leaving behind only a chilling tale of ambition, hubris, and a power beyond human understanding.
As the shadows lengthen, so does the fear. In the chilling saga that unfolded in parts 1 and 2, Leela, a simple villager, found herself ensnared by an ancient sinister force lurking within the walls of a forsaken temple. It began as whispers in the dark, tales of old that warned of a lurking evil, but for Leela, it became a harrowing reality. Her descent into the temple's shadows marked the beginning of an eerie transformation. With each step, deeper into the cold stone corridors, the darkness whispered its secrets, seeping into her veins like a chilling mist. It twisted her thoughts, reshaping them into something foreign, something dark. As she emerged from the temple, the sunlight felt harsh against her skin, a stark contrast to the enveloping gloom she had left behind. But the darkness, it clung to her, weaving its cold tendrils through her spirit. It wasn't merely following her, it was merging with her very essence. And now the darkness isn't just following her, it's becoming part of her. beneath the light of her own home, darkness festers. Leela, having barely escaped the clutches of an unspeakable evil, returns to the deceptive safety of her village. The sunlight, warm and welcoming, does little to thaw the chill of dread that has settled in her bones. Her home, once a sanctuary, now feels like a prison, each room whispering secrets she dares not understand. As days bleed into nights, Leela tries to weave herself back into the tapestry of village life. She smiles, she nods, she exchanges pleasantries, but the darkness within her gnaws at the edges of her sanity. It's an insidious tenant, creeping through the crevices of her soul, reshaping her from the inside out. Objects begin to move with minds of their own. A cup shatters against the wall when her gaze is turned. The shadows at the edge of her vision dance and twist, forming shapes that are gone when she dares to look directly. And the nights are the worst. She hears whispers, chants that echo those from the temple, a language of darkness that she now understands all too well. Physically, Leela changes. Her eyes, once a vibrant blue, now flicker with the dull sheen of storm clouds. Her hands shake, not from age or cold, but from the new energy coursing through her veins. Her reflection becomes a canvas of horror. The face staring back at her begins to distort, features sharp and twisted, as if mocking her plight. Her nights are restless, haunted by dreams of the temple. She wakes up screaming, her own voice foreign to her ears. The village folk begin to notice, giving her wide berths and whispered prayers. Isolation wraps around her like a cloak. In every mirror, a stranger's reflection. In every shadow, a dark whisper. Leela's transformation is not merely physical, but existential. As the darkness claims more of her, the line between the woman she was and the entity she is becoming blurs. What remains is a shell, a conduit for a power that is ancient and cruel. The horror that once pursued her is now within her, and it is hungry for more. Tonight, the air is thick with the scent of impending doom. Under a sky inked with the darkest of hues, Leela stands alone, the remnants of her innocence lost in shadows that dance at her feet. The night is alive with a palpable tension, as if the earth itself anticipates the horror about to unfold. In the heart of an ancient, forgotten grove, Leela raises her arms, her fingers tracing sigils in the air. The atmosphere vibrates with the power of her incantations, spoken in a language that bends and twists the fabric of reality. It's a tongue lost to time, only known to those who have delved too deeply into the abyss. As she chants, the ground beneath her trembles, a low rumble that grows into a cacophony of unsettling sounds. Trees bend, their branches contorting in agony, and the wind carries a mournful howl that chills to the bone. The very air around her begins to shimmer and warp, as if reality itself is being torn apart. Slowly, a portal emerges, swirling with dark energies that exude a chilling malevolence. It grows, its edges flickering with spectral flames, beckoning to unknown realms. Leela's voice grows stronger, her eyes reflecting the sinister glow of the portal. She is no longer merely a woman, she is the harbinger of something ancient and terrifying. The portal, now fully formed, stands as a dark beacon in the night. What world lies beyond, one must wonder, and what horrors will it bring forth? From the ashes of the old, a new terror arises. As the portal before Leela stabilizes, a chilling silence envelops the air. The transformation, now complete, leaves no trace of the woman she once was. Instead, standing there is a creature woven from the very fabric of nightmares, a sinister amalgamation of darkness and malice. Leela's once human form has morphed into something unspeakable. Her limbs, elongated and twisted, end in sharp talon-like appendages that seem to shimmer with a dark, oily sheen. Her skin, if it can still be called that, pulses with a ghostly luminescence, revealing the swirling shadows that churn beneath. The face, now a grotesque mask, features eyes that burn with an unholy light, devoid of all humanity. This new entity, a being of pure darkness, moves with a grace that belies its horrifying appearance. Each step towards the portal sends ripples of fear through the very ground it treads upon. The air around her distorts, as if reality itself recoils from her touch. With a voice that is both echo and whisper, She speaks in tongues lost to time, each syllable weaving deeper despair into the fabric of the cosmos. The portal pulses eagerly, responding to its new master, a gateway to uncharted horrors. Leela steps forward, her form dissolving into tendrils of shadow as she merges with the swirling vortex. The boundary between her world and others blurs, her essence seeping into the cracks of the universe. With one world behind her, countless others now tremble before her shadow. What is left when light ceases to exist? As the portal seals itself with a slow, begrudging finality, the screams from beyond, those of lost souls and banished nightmares, fade into a whisper, then into nothing at all. The village, once a symphony of small-town life, now lies eerily silent. The kind of silence that chills the spine, hinting that something fundamental has shifted. In this newfound quiet, the darkness, unshackled and untamed, begins its silent spread. It is no longer confined to the cobwebbed corners of forgotten temples or the whispered legends of old. No, this darkness is alive, reaching out its chilling tendrils towards unsuspecting souls, weaving through the alleys and doorways of the unprepared. With each passing moment, its power grows, fed by the fears and forgotten secrets of the villagers. It is a living, breathing entity now, thriving in the shadows cast by their unknowing lives. Watch closely, for the darkness has marked its new territory, and it thirsts for more.
Imagine a theater, shrouded in darkness and silence, the air thick with the scent of fear. A chilling scene unfolds, echoing the terror of previous encounters with the enigmatic Leela. As the curtains fell, the once buzzing crowd found themselves ensnared in an unforeseen trap. Doors sealed shut and windows immovable, the theater transformed into a cage of despair. In the dim light, Leela's laughter began to resonate, a sinister symphony that amplified the dread. It wasn't just the sound, her dark powers were awakening. One by one, audience members disappeared into the shadows, as if the darkness itself had hands, pulling them into an abyss from which there was no escape. Those who tried to resist were overwhelmed, their screams swallowed by the thickening air of terror. On the stage, the last stand took place, a desperate confrontation with the malevolent Leela. But as the final audience member vanished, the theater fell eerily quiet. And then there was silence, punctuated only by the eerie echo of a lone laugh fading into the shadows. Who is Leela, and why does she wield such terrifying powers? In a remote village shrouded in the dense mists of forgotten woods, a girl named Leela was born under a blood moon. This unusual celestial event was said to herald a life intertwined with the arcane and the mysterious. As a child, Leela was curious and intelligent, often wandering through the dense forests that bordered her village, listening to the whispers of the ancient trees. Her life took a fateful turn when, hidden in the hollow of an old oak, she discovered a collection of ancient texts bound in shadowy leather. These books spoke of forgotten rituals and dark magic, powers that could bend the very fabric of reality. Despite the ominous air that clung to the pages, Leela was captivated. She began to study these texts with a fervor that alarmed those around her. As she grew, so did her powers, and strange occurrences began to envelop the village. Livestock vanished without a trace. Eerie lights danced over the woods at night, and whispers floated on the wind, chilling the bones of the villagers. Yet these signs were dismissed as mere coincidence, the superstitious murmurs of a tight-knit community. Leela's transformation was not merely in power, but in spirit. Her once warm eyes turned cold and calculating, reflecting a soul that danced ever closer to the abyss of dark magic. The villagers started to fear her, whispering that she was no longer the girl they once knew. Her final descent into darkness came when she conjured her first spirit, a shadowy figure that screamed into the night, sealing her pact with the dark forces. With each incantation and ritual, the girl who once played in the meadows of her village faded, replaced by a figure of immense power and terrifying intent. With each spell cast, Leela drifted further from humanity, embracing a darkness that promised her unimaginable power. But what are these powers that Leela commands? Leela, a name that whispers through the corridors of the unknown, holds dominion over the darkest arts. Picture a world where shadows are not just absence of light, but entities, twisting and turning at one's whim. This is the realm where Leela thrives, manipulating shadows to not only obscure and terrify, but to bind and dominate. Her control over these dark silhouettes is not merely a party trick. In one harrowing instance during a performance long remembered for its chilling atmosphere, Leela summoned shadows that slithered through the crowd. They wrapped around the unsuspecting attendees, their touch cold, and their grip tightening with palpable fear. Each shadow, an extension of Leela's malevolent will, brought her audience into a suffocating embrace of darkness. But her powers extend beyond mere shadow manipulation. Leela has a terrifying ability to seep into the minds of those around her. Consider the night when whispers filled a room, and rational thoughts twisted into nightmares. With a mere glance, she can fracture the strongest resolve, turning one's own mind into a prison of endless horrors. Her victims find themselves puppeteered by their darkest thoughts, each action unwillingly feeding into Leela's chaotic designs. And so, with every shadow cast, every mind ensnared, Leela's influence grows stronger. With every use of her dark arts, the boundary between our world and the one that feeds her power blurs even further. Return to the present, where the theater stands as a grim reminder of last night's horrors. Sunrise spills its light over the facade of the once grand theater, now cloaked in an eerie silence that betrays the chaos of the previous evening. As the local authorities push through the creaking doors, the air is thick with the scent of mystery and dread. Inside, the scene is one of desolation and fear. Rows upon rows of empty seats, each one casting a long, sinister shadow, seem to whisper secrets of the terror that unfolded. Investigators move cautiously, documenting every abnormality. They find no bodies, no traces of the audience members who had vanished into the night. Only the stains of blood serve as silent witnesses to the nightmare. The peculiar absence of any footage from security cameras adds another layer of mystery, as if the very essence of the theater conspired to conceal its new dark identity. Locals pass by the theater with averted eyes, hurried steps betraying their fear. Tales of strange noises and ghostly apparitions have begun to circulate, feeding the legend of the haunted theater. Some say that at night, the anguished screams of the vanished can still be heard, echoing through the empty streets. As the sun sets, the whispers start again, and shadows seem to move on their own. Is Leela still here? What lies ahead for those who dare to uncover more about Leela? As the dust settles on the chilling events at the theater, whispers of Leela's unresolved legacy continue to stir the air. The story, it seems, is far from finished. In the shadows of the abandoned theater, a new group of the curious and the brave are gathering. Armed with nothing but their determination and a deep-seated need to know the truth, they plan to venture into the very heart of darkness. They seek to uncover the secrets that Leela left behind, secrets that might be better left undiscovered. But beware, for Leela's powers have not waned with time. Instead, they grow stronger, fed by the fears and the stories of those who dare to speak her name. This sinister energy permeates the very walls of the theater, setting the stage for a confrontation that could unleash horrors beyond imagination. As night falls over the now silent theater, one must wonder, what darkness awaits those who seek the truth about Leela?